A lot of times I get attacked for my sexuality, especially from religious people online. And so I spend time kind of poking fun at them because they're the number one consumers of my content. It's like, you're so homophobic, but you're watching me more than my audience watches me.
I'm Louis Cole. Welcome to the Recharged podcast. In this series, I invite fellow content creators and artists to explore exciting ways to make a difference in the world. I take my guests to visit local social good projects in my self-converted electric 1973 Volkswagen van. We have real and raw conversations about life and hear from social good heroes that we can all be inspired by. On today's podcast, our guest is Amber Whittington, an actor, host, LGBTQ+ advocate, activist, former professional basketball player, and star of the successful YouTube channel AmbersCloset. She started her channel to help others that may be struggling with their identity to break stereotypes using comedy, vlogging, and honest conversation, as well as to showcase her unique androgynous tomboy style. She has now built a social following of almost 2 million. Amber believes in changing the world by changing within. Her goal is to empower everyone through positivity, self-love, and self-confidence so they feel inspired to show their true, authentic self to the world and to show up as the best versions of themselves. Welcome back to the podcast. Today I have Amber Whittington from AmbersCloset.
Hey, hey.
Thanks for joining. It's been a bit of a mission trying to coordinate dates and find a time that works, but
yeah,
thanks for coming and being a part of my podcast.
Yeah, thanks for picking me up. I'm already having hella fun.
So me and Amber met a few years ago, actually at, what was it, Vlog University or something? That event, I think it's that event iJustine was putting on.
Oh, is that where we met?
So, we might have met before that, but I feel like it's when we first
that's where we
talked.
real connect, yeah. That's right.
And I just want to say off the bat, before we dive in, I have just been, ever since we met, just been so inspired by you. And out of all the creators and influencers I know, I don't know anyone as passionately really doing activism and really fighting for social justice, and I just wanted to say that I feel super inspired by you.
Wow, coming from you, that's a lot. Thank you. That's crazy, because I feel inspired, because I feel like you live it, you literally live your truth. You know what I mean? I can pull away for a second with my sanity, but you live your truth at all times. So you inspire me too.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
I wanted to dive in firstly with just maybe you could give me a 3-minute life story of how you ended up in LA doing the YouTube thing, your personal life story, just compacted into 3 minutes if you can.
Yeah, okay. So yeah, growing up, I was between Texas, Sacramento, and LA. My mom's from Sacramento, my dad from Texas and Los Angeles. And then, so we were literally split with our childhood. We went to school in Sacramento, all of our summers in Houston, and every other weekend and holidays in LA. And that's because my dad played for Oakland Raiders and then coached LA Raiders, which brought us here. And then anyway, so I finished college here, and my sister started doing YouTube, and I was making fun of her, and then she put me on one of her sister tag videos. And at this time I was doing corporate executive stuff, and she put me on one of her videos, and people just asked me to make a channel, and I started really realizing that there was no one that looked like me or talked about the things that I felt like I was interested in or needed. So then boom, I started making videos, and really I realized that I was a representation that wasn't there, and so it was really important to me. So then I started just creating videos that I wish I had growing up, and that's me in a nutshell. But I want to add one thing. I grew up wanting to be a lawyer, so I thought I was going to have to go to law school. And I grew up wanting to be a politician, so I thought I had to be a lawyer to do that. So I grew up thinking I had to go to law school to be a politician. And it's crazy that me just sharing my passions on YouTube kind of brought me full circle, where I'm in the rooms with the people that I grew up, looking up to, that are politicians or in that realm or whatever. So
is that a direction you're now heading in? You feel like you want to step into politics?
I don't know. I go back and forth because how this country is. You can be passionate about one thing 1 minute and then literally be on the brink of insanity. From the say, and then so sometimes I go back and forth. As much as I want to change things, can I? And in what capacity? So I go back and forth a lot, but I would love to be in a position where I can help more people than I'm able to. I wish that I had funding so I can just I mean, I've told you about this, so I can have buildings downtown and house women and children and provide resources for people.
Yeah,
I mean,
especially right now, like LA and the homelessness situation, and
it's just gotten out of control.
It's so crazy.
Yeah.
Where do you think your passion for injustice really kind of stemmed from? Because I feel like, obviously, being part of the LGBTQ community, like you've really made a stand and you're a powerful activist in that space. And then obviously like racial inequity, you're talking about people that are homeless. Like I feel like you are just standing for kind of oppressed, marginalized communities. And I just would love to know, like, did that start from a young age? What were there significant stories in your life that really like made you passionate? Because that's what I feel. I just feel so much passion from you with it all.
Well, okay, to finish up with the last question, I love that I have the option to be in politics if I want to one day. So we'll see what happens with that. Yeah. But having the option is pretty cool, right? I like and then, I would say it definitely stemmed from a young age. And the two things came to mind when you started talking about it was, one, being called an N-word to my face, so like aggressively, and by this grown, and I was 3 years old, by the way. 3 years old, I was in a convenience store, and we were in the South, and this guy walks up to me and just starts pointing at me and just like you like spitting at me, saying it. And so I ended up having to go like walk to my mom and ask her what it was. And I was like, what does N-word mean? And then she just freaked out. Is everything okay? Yeah, it's flashing. And she freaked out and was like, where did you hear it from? So anyways, they had to explain it to me at a very young age, and I had to realize that I'm living in a world of people that hate me just because I'm biracial, right? And so that already in itself was a lot. And then...
And was that at that age, did you fully understand? Like, did you understand what was going on?
No, not at all. I mean, when they explained it to me, and then I'm a little Virgo, so like once I was explained something, I started paying attention, and I started realizing that my parents being, a biracial, couple in the South was a problem, right? And I realized that, racial things were happening to me more than my cousins that were fully black, because they hated the idea of me mixed with them even more. So it was extra hard. And then when I switched schools to Sacramento, my parents put us in private school, which made us around a lot of Caucasian people that pointed out my hair every day. So as bright as I am, I'd never even realized that I was light-skinned black until I'm much older, because my hair made me stand out so much that it was just like it was something about my race every day. There was no like turning it off, right? So there's that. But then I remember, I think when I was like 5 years old or something, my dad used to give us allowance like every week. My mom would take us to the store to buy some stuff. I saw this older woman, and she was like the only homeless woman in the area. And I just was so confused why she was there by herself, but it made me angry. So then I asked my mom, I'm like, Mom, like, why is she out here? Like, what's up with that? And she ended up telling me that some people just don't have homes, and I just could not understand it. So every single Friday, my mom would take me to the store, and I would spend half my allowance on her. So I'd get her like some Lunchables, some fruit, whatever. And so that's how I just felt. I grew up just not understanding why people have to treat people different because of their background, their culture, and why are there people on the street and when we're supposed to be caring about other humans? Like, so anyways, I think as I grew up, I just did my part, but then I started realizing like, okay, no, this is not okay. Like, we got to figure out ways to do more. So yeah.
Oh, I love that. Yeah. Yeah, I think there's always kind of significant memories that kind of define our character or define the things that we like care about in our lives. So it's cool to kind of
hear that.
Yeah, just to hear what was it that did that for you.
Have you seen Becoming You on Apple?
No.
Yo, it's crazy. So it's a show on Apple about the things that happen when we're like between the ages of like 0 to like 5 years old, and how those things make us who we are today. And so it's like little moments of like, oh, this person, like when this kid looks in the mirror and realizes that that's that they're that reflection. They're like, oh, I'm my own person, like little things like that. So it's crazy watching that, and it already made me think about those things that you just asked me, like, oh, what were those moments where I became this person that was passionate about that? Because they were talking about between like, 4 and 7, how you find your passions or how you're able to connect to them and use that to drive you in some way. So it was crazy that I was thinking about that already watching this show, and then you brought it up. I'm like, yeah, I was thinking about that. And that's really, it's very real, like things that we go through, and sometimes we're not even in touch with it. And so it's like really sitting down and thinking about like, what did you go through that when you were younger? What experience did you have that made you this human that you are? Yeah. Good, bad, and ugly.
So obviously a big part of your identity and is being biracial. What was your journey with kind of coming out and becoming like such an activist in the LGBTQ space? Like, was it something that was like from the offset you were like passionate about being an activist, or because you shared on your channel kind of early on you coming out, like was that, because I feel like that's a big part of your online kind of branding, right?
It was the fact that, like I said, this private school I went to all 12 years, I already stood out as one of the only kids of color. So like, I don't know, when I started to question my sexuality, well, I really had no resources to go to even understand what I was feeling, right? And so I was just keeping it in because I couldn't stand out more than I already was in my own head, right? And so it took me a very long time to even like start accepting that side of myself and even trying to understand what it was. So I came out really late. I started telling like some close friends and my mom and my sister. But other than that, I woke up one morning and I was just so fed up that I let other people's opinions hold me back from being myself. And I was so mad about it that I exploded out of the closet. And so when I made that video,
exploded out of the closet.
Literally exploded out of the closet. Which my channel started with fashion, but then coming out of the closet, it just was like a double entendre. But
so when you made the channel Amber's Closet, it wasn't about being in the closet?
No, it wasn't.
Wow, I always assumed it was like linked.
I know.
It was like,
my sister had Ashton's Closet already because she was doing fashion. We were always fashionistas, but we were very opposite. Obviously, I'm more like tomboy, androgynous. So that was the other reason why people were like, oh my God, like I like how Amber dresses. Because we were already, like when Instagram first started, we had a good amount of following just because of our style. And so yeah, my sister was like, if you do a page, you need to make it Amber's Closet, and like threaten my life. And so it ended up just working out because I started doing coming out videos. But so like I woke up one morning and I made a video, coming out. And when I did that, most of my family didn't know, so they found out from the internet.
And was that tough for them to find out online, or did they kind of understand that it was tough for you to kind of talk to them about it, like face to face?
Well, I feel like I was already,
because I was talking to Elle Mills about this as well.
Oh yeah, what'd she say?
And she did the same. Like I think she'd come out to a close family, but some of her, I think even maybe like her sister didn't know, and then she made a video without telling her.
Yo, she's wild.
And that like damaged their relationship because.
Oh, and not marrying her sister's boyfriend wasn't damaging?
No.
Yo, Elle's wild.
She is.
I love her, but
So was that difficult? What I'm saying, did it cause?
I was older than Elle, so I think it was very different because I was already, moved out. The other thing is I was already kind of pulled back from my family in general. I felt like I obviously was different. I was playing college basketball. I was already busy all the time. And so I was already, I guess, reserved from my family, except for my dad. I talked to him all the time, but he was the one that found out kind of last, and he was upset about that. But I was fine. Like I told my closest friends, and I told the people that met in my chosen family, and I was already fully supported. So I didn't really care what people had to say after that. And that's what I tell others, like get to that point where you're not dependent on others, or you know yourself so well that you're confident, so that no one can try to sway you and try to like change your mind, or threaten your livelihood in some way, because some kids will tell their parents and still living with their parents, and their parents make their like ground them until they like are able to move out or something, you know, and like some people feel like it's unsafe for them, but I was grown, and I was at the point where I was like, I don't care what they think, and you know, if I'm not sleeping next to them, they're not paying my bills, and they're not helping me make the decisions for my life, then why do I care? Like, you know, I gotta be happy. So yeah, but anyways, thinking back to that and realizing how hard that was and why my journey was so long is one of the reasons that drives me to help anyone else's journey and make it easier than mine was.
Yeah, and I love what you're saying before about how like you wanted to make videos which were the kind of videos you weren't able to see when you were like a teenager or whatever, or growing up, or kind of finding yourself.
Right.
And that, you know, a lot of these kids kind of exploring their sexuality don't feel safe. So to create that safe space online, I guess in many ways YouTube has been this amazing platform for giving people a voice that in the past wouldn't have had a voice.
Exactly.
But I also have seen over the last few years that's changing a bit.
Absolutely.
And I'm worried that with YouTube pleasing advertisers and trying to be as, I don't know what they're trying to do, but like trying to fit people into a certain content box, it's silencing and kind of hiding the very content that you feel like should be accessible for kids that need this content, right?
Absolutely.
So what's that journey been like? Has that been super frustrating for you, that like something that should be out there that you are pioneering in and like providing content for people that need it, that people are being robbed from accessing it, you know?
Yeah, that's been like an obstacle for me for years. I mean, when that apocalypse happened, it hurt me and my channel a lot. I went from being able to make a living from YouTube to literally having to pay money to create content to even stay afloat, like to even put out there, hoping to even get brand deals to maybe even me out. It was crazy. It was hard, and it really took time for YouTube to understand that like the people that built your platform were the people that were the weirdos and the different, you know, the different people, the ones that aren't represented on traditional media. Those are the ones that built YouTube. And then when you became more of an advertising company, you silenced those in favor of the Disney-like characters, and which really hurt us surviving, therefore hurt us continuing our voices, right? But then there are other platforms, and I do feel really good about this young generation that blew up TikTok. They know exactly who they are. So anyways, I'm seeing these young kids at like 13, 14, 15 know exactly who they are, and they're inspiring me. It's crazy. So I feel okay, because I feel like with this young generation, they're always going to push to make sure that our voices are like have a place. And so I'm gonna keep going. Whether I gotta build my platform myself. And at one point in time, I was trying to make a gay YouTube just to make sure that people had a safe place, because YouTube was going through what they went through, and they were literally putting on these filters that were supposed to be about sexual behavior, but it was silencing sexuality videos, which included LGBTQ individuals. So it's better now. But
yeah, you think it's getting better? You think YouTube are addressing some of those issues?
Yeah. They are. Cool. I've been able to be on like, they build like groups like on like I guess I would say panels. I was able to do it for Black creators for YouTube, and also for LGBTQ creators, where we are able to sit down with them and express our concerns and like, how can you help us in any way? So they're working on it, which makes me feel good. But we could still have a gay YouTube.
Yeah, I love that. Like I was saying, I love that YouTube has given people the access to reach kind of thousands or millions of people.
Yeah.
When that started happening for you, when you started growing an audience, I'd love to know what was running through your head. Was it like exciting to kind of reach people? At that point, were you feeling like, oh, there's like a goal or a purpose or a mission, or was it just like fun when you first started. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I didn't have a goal at all.
Yeah.
I was tripping that it was even happening because I still had a full-time job at that point, like at the beginning. And then it got to a point where my job kind of sat down. They were like, hey, we see that you're on the internet and this is a problem. You're gonna have to choose.
Wow.
Literally. And so
because what they thought it made you look bad, or
that's what I'm trying to say. This is 2014, I think. Yeah, and so yeah, ultimately chose myself. Like, first of all, you're not about to give me an ultimatum. what I do after work, you know what I'm saying? But there was one time that I don't know, who knows, but so I kind of got forced into, like, once I lost that job, or I would say it lost me. Once they lost me, I was kind of like forced to dive in while I was looking for something else. And during that time, me being able to dive in, I was able to grow it and find out that you can make money from it. Yeah. So then that's kind of, it gave me that push to explore it more seriously.
I remember when I first started, it was more just fun, and at the back of my mind was like, oh, maybe I'd be able to like live off this. Maybe it'll be enough to maybe survive.
Yeah.
But that was like it's only when people just started talking about, oh, you can make money on YouTube.
Oh yeah, I didn't know for years.
Yeah.
And a couple of my videos went viral, and people were like, at the time before I even monetized, and they were like, yo, you could have made thousands. And I just had no idea. But that wasn't my goal. My goal was just like, oh, let me be representation. Let me like share my stories, because I know that that's like what helps people, finding relatable content or things that they need, because I don't know, first of all, like, I paid attention to my followers like crazy. Like, I was really only doing content they told me. I would have them vote on it. Like, all my videos for the first couple of years were everything that my followers tell me. So I was just giving them what they wanted, and which was really cool. But I started like to get emails very early on, like, I wanted to, then kids would say, I didn't want to be in this world anymore. And then when I stumbled on your video and realized that somebody else went through what I went through, like, you literally saved my life. And that's when I started to be like, oh, okay, wow. Yeah, this is serious. It's way bigger than me. And so that was just awesome. And so I started bringing my other friends into it and started to encourage other people, because we need as many voices as possible, as much representation as possible. It's not just one person's story, not one biracial, you know what I'm saying, not one black lesbian story. It's got to be everybody's.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so when you started out, there wasn't like some deeper purpose for it, you were just like whatever, and then it kind of slowly dawned on you, wow, this is actually impacting people's lives.
Right.
Would you say now you have a clear defined kind of goal or purpose with what you're doing online, or do you feel like you can summarize like what your dream is for like what you're doing?
It's hard to say that I know one for sure. Like I know that I'm trying to make a positive. Oh, it's green. You want to pull that? I'm trying to make a positive impact. Like, I want to encourage people to be the best version of themselves at all times, because I feel like with that it helps you be a better person for yourself, people around you, and for the world. And so, like, if I can help people along that journey and also just like love themselves and be confident in themselves, like, I don't know, I feel like just those things that sound small but they're really not, like, will help make this world or our communities better. So yeah, I don't know, I just want to make a positive impact. No matter how little it is,
Yeah, which you're already doing in amazing ways from the sounds of it, and I love that has been a big part of your, even if it's kind of subconscious, it's been a big part of your mission with the content you're making, and that I know that like the motivation behind a lot of the stuff you're doing is that. And I think what's challenging for me sometimes is like maybe seeing creators who haven't had that realization yet, and maybe they're making kind of just trashy content which isn't really helping the world. But then also I don't want to judge, because I'm like, do you think I mean, one side you could say, you know, we do, as influencers, as people with followings, like, we have a responsibility, which is kind of where I lean into, but also I don't, if people are on that journey of kind of figuring their own life out and they just want to make entertaining content, I also don't think that's like necessarily bad. Right. I just think it's a missed opportunity, or that people aren't having their potential. So I don't know, how do you think we continue to inspire and help the kind of influencer world want to kind of find that desire to make a difference?
Yeah.
Do you think that's, I don't know.
I don't know, it's tough. I feel like no matter what we do, there's always going to be people out there with crazy content, trashy content, self-fulfilling content. That's how I see it. There's a lot of people, personalities, no matter who, you know, their astrological signs, whatever it is, that they feel fulfilled by self-gratification, right? Seeing themselves on a video, seeing their things blow up. And I'm not here to judge. It's just I can analyze and I can see that that's where a lot of content draws from or whatever, right? And we just have to make sure that we balance it. Like, there's got to be balance within everything. So I don't try to focus on theirs or try to inspire them in any way, because if they don't have it, they don't have it. What I want to do is encourage more people like you and I that have something great to say and some you know, positive, like we want to make positive change or impact in others. I want them to be encouraged to speak up and use, you know, create a platform and represent their community, whatever it is, use their voice. I'd rather do that than analyze the other people, because I don't have time, you know, for that. But I hope that something that I put out will reach them or inspire them one day to maybe even just take a look and even to put out something, even if it's a little bit. And so if we can get a little bit, if we can get in touch with them and even have a little bit of inspiration, or give them a little bit of inspiration to where they want to like share a story or share something that's going on in the world, I would say that's a win, you know?
Yeah, and I think also I guess like if I look back to my early 20s, like maybe I wasn't in the same mindset, and there's something about being in this industry for a while. I think most people will eventually start questioning, what am I trying to do here, or what's my goal, or, you know, and it might take people longer. It might be a whole, you know, it's a whole journey for people to want to. And you even see like traditional actors and stuff, like they might have been in the acting Hollywood industry for like 30 years, and then suddenly you see them doing this activist work, and you're like, oh, like that's cool. Like I feel like people do a bit of soul searching and find that a lot of these mountains we're climbing leave you feeling empty. If it's, you know, especially in LA and Hollywood, it's like the fame and the power and the money, and I think if you haven't got a deeper purpose that you're fighting for, I do feel like eventually you're going to feel pretty empty from it all.
Yeah, I mean, that's how I think, and that's how I feel. But I also see there's a lot of people that really don't care, and that's why, look, that's why our city looks like that, and that's why like kids are harmed, and kids have to get kicked out of their house and live on the street just because of their sexuality, and like people don't care. And so we have to realize that too, so that we step it up in caring a little bit more, like to create that balance, you know?
How do you think, I mean, this is I haven't got the answer, I'm just interested what you think. Like, how do you think we create a more caring world? Like, right. Especially over the last few years, like, it feels like it's getting less caring. It feels like there's more division, there's more, I don't know, like conflict. Right. And it might just be my perception, but it feels like it.
No,
like that,
absolutely.
You know?
I mean, especially with the last administration that we had, and who was the leader, who was like the most narcissistic person ever. It's just like me. How do I satisfy me and make me happy and my friends happy? Yeah, it brought out a lot of division. But what I tried to see in that is it's bringing up a lot of really sore subjects that we need to talk about, bring to the surface, and figure out some way to heal. So hopefully within this we can see that there's racial injustice, there's systematic racism, there's leaders that are completely out of touch with people and how everyday people live and what they need, right? And then on top of that, we have inequality in schools and inequality with, you know, just people and their rights, right? So I'm hoping that bringing up these subjects brings it to the surface so that we can actually pay attention to the leaders that we're voting for and put them in position, put better leaders in position to really change things and help us. So that's what I'm hoping for, because I'm hoping that the more diverse that becomes by itself, is that we can bring more stuff to, like, I just try to be a stereotype breaker. I want people to see on the internet, like, even though I'm sharing a story about me and one of my ex-girlfriends, that someone, a whole different background, can see, oh my God, I went through that. Wow. We have a lot more similarities and differences, and I'm hoping seeing that will actually get people to, like, open their minds a little bit more and say, like, oh, it doesn't matter their race, culture, or whatever. Like, we're all humans. We go through the same shit.
Yeah, and that goes back to what you're saying about, like, representation. Like, if you grow up only seeing these, like, sustained stereotypes of maybe, like, how Hollywood has been showing certain, you know, people groups for years, or whatever it is, like, I feel like if you're living in a small rural area where you don't get to interact with other types of people, and you only have this one perception, that can just create the prejudice or the racism towards other people, because you don't, you know, you have this, like, very blinkered, kind of confused view of the world. So I feel like that's probably why a lot of these bigger, diverse cities, like, you just have a lot more, you know, liberal, kind of progressive views, because it's like people, I don't know, like, they understand that we're all human. But yeah, it does feel sometimes, I don't know if you feel this, but somebody who cares a lot, do you ever feel just, like, so overwhelmed with everything that it's just, like, almost like, where do you even start? Like, how do you even start tackling some of these issues? Because it's just like, you know, I know people that are, like, in the social impact space and they're just depressed. Yeah. So how do you stay positive?
Yeah, that's what I was trying to say earlier. Like, I go insane all the time, like, for real, and I have to pull myself back. Like, and this week I felt really, you know, crappy because I didn't post a lot about what was going on and with the war with the Palestinians and everything. And I was taking a lot in, and I was learning a lot, and how that even started in the first place. Like,
was a lot of that just the fear of backlash and not saying something?
No, I was on empty. Yeah. I was on empty at that point, and I didn't share because I had to pull away, because I was at that level. Like, you know, when I always think of each person that has stuff to give to the world, right? We're a cup of water, and I just was on empty. I was pouring out, and I literally had nothing left. And so you can't do that, because the more that I just kept pouring, the more I have nothing to give, or then I'm not going to be happy with what I have to give, because it's not my best, because I'm not filled. So I literally had to take this past week and a half of, like, recharging and refilling my cup. And so I don't know, I find myself having to do that often because of exactly what you're saying, going a little bit crazy, and I'm overwhelmed, and I get overwhelmed very easily.
And just getting, like you said, like, burnt out, exhausted, like, it's very energy draining, because essentially, like, it is a fight. Like, it's a constant fight, right? You're constantly... Absolutely. That's what it feels like.
You're, like, on edge, on your toes, having to, like, worry about... And
I'm also talking from a super privileged position of being a white, straight man. Like, and I still feel like, as I start dipping my toes into more activism, it's like, whoa, this is hard. And I'm, like, the one that's least affected by any... Like, I'm not oppressed in any way, really. Like, do you know what I mean? So it's like, to fight, and you're coming from a place of being oppressed...
It's a lot.
Yeah.
But that's another reason why I appreciate your voice so much, is because you're able to say that and express what's going on, because we're over here fighting for, you know what I'm saying, someone with your privilege to even understand what we're going through. But look right, I mean, we're passing, my street is Skid Row pretty much now, right? So every day that I walk outside, I'm going through it all over again, because I'm helping out. I know these people by name, you know, and I'm trying to help them out. And then, and so, like, as much as, like, you think that you have more privilege than me. I walk outside, and to be a person of color, a man of color on the street out here, no one cares. Like, and they feel it, and like, but there's no resources or anything to help them, so they can feel that no one cares, even though there are people that do, but we just can't, we don't know what to do. Anytime we try to get this building, it's blocked. You know, whatever it is, like, we voted for propositions and measures to put money into this, and then we don't see it. You know what I mean? It's frustrating. And that's the reason why it makes me want to go into politics, because I'm like, what seat do I need to be in to make sure that that money gets put into the organizations that are actually doing the work? And these are things I don't talk about a lot on my platforms, because as soon as you start talking about the homeless, people attack you. Because if I go out and show, they're like, why would you blast them out like that? Why would you embarrass them like that? But it's like, no, I need y'all to see what's happening, you know? So it's really hard. And so I'm really sensitive about it. So a lot of the work that I do, I don't talk about it at all. I just have to be out there doing it.
Yeah. And that's also the tough one sometimes of like, I never want to be doing things and sharing stuff online as like a virtue signaling, like trying to be like, oh, look what I'm doing.
Wait, look at this advertising.
Who is this?
Become internet famous, like? What is that? Did you see the other bus just had that? This is like brand new, I've never seen it. You are literally telling everybody, come on, be on this app so you can be internet famous? God, what is the world?
I thought this is like, people are beyond chasing likes at this point.
Oh
well,
my
maybe not
God.
beyond it, but anyway.
I'm sorry, what were you saying? That shit was just crazy.
I was just
to me.
saying, like, I sometimes see creators will use giving homeless people money as a clickbait thing, and it's like not really tackling the issue, and it's very much like, sure, like I'm sure if you handed a wad of money to somebody on the street, they'd be very grateful, but it's not solving any problems.
It's not. Especially because you don't know their background.
Yeah.
There's people that are on the street that I know if I give them $5, they're gonna go eat. And then there's others that I know that even if I buy them a candy bar, they're gonna go try to trade it for some crack. Because that's happened before to me. So I know every person is an individual in their circumstance. This is the worst street right here. This part right here, this is a resource center where they can eat at night.
We're visiting this center now.
Are we really?
Midnight Mission, yeah.
Wow, okay, yeah.
So we're gonna go and chat to them and like learn a bit, because I've been here a couple times, and obviously you're way more knowledgeable, so I'd love to hear from you as well. But
no,
like,
I've tried to email them so many times. So.
I've only like been here a couple times, a couple of events, but I don't even know the history of how things got this bad. Like, there's a little bit of it in Venice in comparison. I mean, there's a lot of it in Venice, but I've seen
there are literally, this street right here, there is individuals, especially women right there, that don't even have a blanket to lay on. They're just laying. And then our governor has recently released so many people from jail and from mental wards, and just put them on the street with nowhere to go. So it's just adding on top of the fact that a lot of people during the pandemic started suffering financially, ended up out here too. It's just crazy.
Today we're visiting Andrew Linares, a volunteer manager at the Midnight Mission, a non-profit organisation that is dedicated to providing a support system to people facing homelessness on Skid Row. They believe that every person deserves to live with stability and provide the structure and the resources that people experiencing homelessness need to truly improve their lives. They believe that everyone deserves to live with dignity no matter what they've been through. The Midnight Mission has been a consistent beacon of light for those with nowhere else to turn, and runs one of the most efficient direct service operations in the country.
We've arrived in Skid Row. This is Andrew from Midnight Mission, and he's just going to, we're just going to walk around a little bit and hear a bit about what you guys are doing. And
so I don't know how much Amber has mentioned about Skid Row, but its history here is amazing to me. I'm a history freak, and to find out that this has been around since, you know, even during the gold rush here in California, when all this was just land with train tracks and factories, like Skid Row has always existed.
in this state of being like a big area for homeless.
Pretty much, and it was like a few block radius because the city wasn't
That big.
yet.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But it stuck around until even the 1930s when we hit the Great Depression, and organizations like the Midnight Mission were already existing. Right?
So when was the Midnight Mission founded? When did it start?
So the Midnight Mission got founded by a gentleman named Tom Littlecoat in 1914. So for over 100 years now, we've been in operation. And during the Great Depression, the Midnight Mission was named the #1 shelter for emergency services.
Yeah.
And what that means is pretty much we made sure that we had enough food, enough, clothing, any services that anyone that was experiencing homelessness needed. And we made sure that we provided that for everyone.
Yeah.
So you can imagine what the 1930s looked like with the Great Depression, everyone, suffering hard, like from loss of money and all that. The same thing happened with this pandemic, A lot of people didn't have anywhere to go. A lot of these people can walk around downtown and ask for money from anybody that they see coming out of a restaurant. The minute the pandemic hit and everything shut down, they didn't have that resource.
Right.
Wow, yeah.
People were able to ask restaurants to use restrooms or to get a cup of water.
Or
All that
food
shut
left
down.
over from the day.
Leftover food.
Yeah.
So all that shut down for them, and so organizations like the Midnight Mission here in Skid Row have been the only light for them, right? To be able to get the food. And so it was a responsibility for us to be able to keep our doors open during the middle of a pandemic, which we've done for over 100 years. Like, our biggest concern was making sure that our doors and our resources stayed open.
Absolutely.
And we've done that. So
is this whole building here, Midnight Mission building?
Midnight Mission, yeah, and this is just one of the buildings. We do have another one.
Yeah.
Can you walk around to the ground? You were saying there was a big increase in people having to live on the streets during the pandemic. Is there like numbers? Do you know like how big that was? Because I was like seeing it explode in Venice where we were living.
So no, well, what you saw was definitely an explosion of a number rising, but it was also a number of people coming out.
Okay.
Because again, you got to keep in mind, a lot of people, I'm gonna speak this from experience.
Yeah.
When I was on the street, I wanted to be left alone.
Yeah.
So I'd hide away from people and just find a bush and crawl in there and just stay there. And so that's the same case for a lot of other people. I've met some people in Orange County who did the same thing. And it wasn't until the city kicked us out to where we had to be on the streets and be noticed.
But it did go from like around 2,500 to about 11,000 now, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely it rose during the beginning of the pandemic. Henceforth why the number for the losses, homeless count went to 66,000, which did not make a difference to like last year's. I think it was a 12.3% raise, rise in individuals experiencing homelessness. And so it's not getting easier.
No.
There's still a lot more people coming on, especially right now with people losing work and not being able to pay the rent. Like we get calls from families who are desperate to try to get services. So
because a lot of people kind of like ate through maybe their life savings to keep paying rent through the pandemic, and it's like still impacting. It'll probably be impacting for years, right? Like the actual.
Most people didn't have savings at all. They were, if there was a month where there was an emergency of $200, most couldn't even do that.
I mean, even for me right now, buying a new car right now, I'm experiencing financial insecurity for that car payment, to be able to transport myself back and forth from work. So things like that, and especially when you have children and a family, for a lot of people, we get a lot of parents that are single parents. So they're struggling the most because it's just one income coming in. So that's just a harder part for a struggle for a lot of Angelenos here in Los Angeles.
Absolutely.
Let's go inside right here. Okay. So this is as far as we can go for now, due to the pandemic.
I understand.
One of the things that I love about the Midnight Mission is that during the 1930s, it was known for having the resources to be able to feed you and give you clothing. We had a barber shop from the very beginning, because Tom Littlecoat did believe that changing someone's appearance from the outside can help,
Absolutely, how they feel on the inside,
make them feel good. And in 1975, we ended up getting our healthy living program because the number of alcoholics on the streets became impactfully large here in Skid Row. So we ended up introducing 12-step recovery into the program to help be able to battle that portion of homelessness, right? In 1995, the number of families on the street started rising, and that's when we ended up opening our other location called Homelight. And that is an 11-unit apartment that was donated to the Midnight Mission, and we converted into a program to help families get back on their feet and learn how to save some money And, you know, if they have drugs and alcohol dependency, you know, we help them with that by offering the 12-step recovery. And just pretty much getting the family reunited. We've had several people who were on the verge of losing their kids, and we help them with you know, being able to take care of all that. Any legal issue, finding jobs. If they haven't worked for a while, we help them with job training. So that's in 1995. In 2017, we ended up noticing the number of women rising here in Skid Row, which was very alarming because no one should be on the streets, but the safety for a woman can also be very dangerous.
Especially young women.
Especially young women,
Yeah.
exactly. And when you are in a position where you have nothing else to resort but to doing, you know, certain activities like prostitution and all
Right.
that raises the bar even more for danger. So we wanted to make sure that we get as many people off the streets as possible. And so we opened our Crisis and Bridge program. And we did that for both men and women. Before, this was just a emergency service shelter, but also a recovery program. But now we're allowing anybody into the facility that is experiencing homelessness to be able to help them get back on their feet. And with that, we help them find housing, get jobs, get reunited with family, which is the important part, right? For a lot of us who pretty much had been on the street, we lost contact with any loved one. And so our goal is to make sure that we reunite them with family.
I often refer as homeless people, but to say a person experiencing homelessness, that's a better way of saying it, right? Because then it's like taking it away from that being their identity, and it's just an experience they're currently going through.
So one of the things that we believe in here is there's no difference between them and us. The only difference is the circumstance, right? So when we hear people say the homeless, it just sounds nasty and degrading, like not human, right? And like the best way that I can describe it is like, for me being an openly gay man, I also don't want to be categorized as part of the gays, right? Like it just sounds horrible. It just sounds like I'm a separate kind of human being, right? But in reality, we're all human beings, right? We're all brothers and sisters here, and you know, the only difference is some of our lifestyles. And for a lot of people here experiencing homelessness, we like to say that, or the unhoused population,
Yeah.
right? Because they're still humans, and we gotta remember that. And so by, you know, changing just a little bit of the title, it gives them a chance to.
It humanizes them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know.
Exactly.
So
It's cool to know that, because I feel like it's just a slight change in the wording, but it's had such an impact on somebody, and it's good to know. It's good to know.
Especially it's more encompassing of all the circumstances that bring people here.
Right.
Like, you know, it's so many more things than substance abuse, which most people think, right? And then there's mental health is one of the biggest, and then on top of that, circumstances like the pandemic and all that, which put people in a really bad financial situation, and that's also included. So it's like, I feel like it's more inclusive of the things that that bring people to this situation.
Absolutely.
That people need to be aware of.
Right.
Because there's so many things that it's not one thing that's going to help this. It's resources for substance abuse. It's helping people with counseling, mental health services, therapy, 12-step programs, helping them build resumes and get job experience.
Exactly.
Like there's so many things that they need help with.
We love the fact that what Judge Carter is doing right now in Los Angeles, pushing the county and the city to get people off the streets.
You're right.
Immediately.
Right.
Which is just the beginning.
Right.
And that's something that we've been trying to announce for so long. That
You're right.
getting people off the streets will help, but it's not enough, right? You can't do one or the other. It has to be one and the other.
Exactly.
Right? Our CEO and president, Mike Arnold, always says this is an and situation, right? Meaning that you got to add more to the solution. And by finding these resources,
right.
you know, downtown mental health is a great resource for a lot of people here, but it's not enough of them. So we got to be able to have more resources out there for our community, you know, in order for us to be able to tackle this completely. Like, we can't wait until the day that we actually shut our doors because there's no more reason for us to be around, right?
Right.
For over 100 years, we've been
Needed.
doing this, leading, right? And we just want to shut our doors and not have to worry about seeing another individual experiencing all of this, you know? But we need more spaces. Like, I hate seeing the fact that we don't have housing, but I see lots like just down the street on San Pedro that's used
I just said that on the way
being
here.
used for production
Nothing.
films, right?
Or
That's
nothing.
nothing.
How many buildings? We can walk to my house from here. We're gonna pass at least 5 or 6 buildings that could house thousands of people.
Yeah, this
But
is your
then-
big dream, right?
This is what I've been saying forever. But then when I go to see what it would take to buy that house, me and a bunch of people, or buy the building with a bunch of people, we're blocked. Because we're blocked by people with money that say, hey, you can't buy this building if you're gonna aid in helping people in any way. We don't want that. The neighbors don't want that. The building's gonna decrease in value, all these things. But instead, you have people live outside of the building. They say no to what we were looking at, Hotel Cecil, all these things. But instead, you just have people.
These are empty. Most of them are empty. And
So
it's
instead,
sitting
you just
right
have
there.
people in front. So you don't want to help the people and allow them to be inside, but they can live out front. What sense does that make? And then the government, all this money that we're supposed to be getting from the props and measures should be going to grassroots organizations like Midnight Mission and like all these organizations that are actually out here doing the work and know exactly what people need because they're talking to them every day. We can't have the government building something that's already being done. Give the money and the resources to the people that know exactly what
Better
people
yet,
need.
just buy the land and make the property that needs to happen. That is
Absolutely.
our biggest goal. Your concern is not having enough housing, then create it. You know, it's funny because I see the corner right here of 7th and San Pedro, and there's a brand new building that's going to house probably about, I'd say, 50 to 100 individuals, right? But that's still not enough because, again, we have over 66,000 individuals experiencing homelessness, right? And there's still more people coming in because one thing that a lot of people don't know either is that we have people coming in from across the country to Los Angeles because
It's easier to live out here in the weather, out here on the
Someone
streets.
told me that some states will pay for their bus tickets to ship them to
They
California.
do. They drop. This is a whole thing. I'm like, don't get me into, because people think I'm a conspiracy, but this is for real. They bus load people from different areas and they'll drop them off in Oakland or they'll drop them off in Skid Row in downtown LA. By the bus loads.
and conveniently enough,
Every
the
single
bus stop
day.
is right here.
Absolutely. Every single day I see a person carrying a bag full of stuff, and that's how I know that they just got here. And just on my street every single day. And I want to stop and I ask some of them, but it just frustrates me that I can't say, hey, are you okay? Like, let me take you here. There's nowhere for me to take them. I would love to have a place where I'm like, let you have a shower and see what you need and like help people.
See, the beginning of all this is just pretty much as simple as finding space and getting a bunch of these.
Yeah.
You know, I was just watching an interview with I forget what council district it is, but over by LA City Harbor College, their CEO for the school, their president for the school, had agreed with the county, their council member, to literally utilize some of their parking lot and
To do that?
place a bunch of those on there so that
Yeah.
they can help their students who are enrolled to classes and are sleeping in their cars. You know, and that's just
So this is just a little bedroom, like a bed, like a.
all it is a small little shack with a bed and electricity. It has heater and air conditioning, and it has a drawer for your belongings. It doesn't give you much space, but it gives you enough to have what you need.
Absolutely.
And we're using it right now just as a temporary solution to be able to do the intake process. But eventually, Los Angeles should be looking at stuff like this. You know, it doesn't.
There were some programs that did that and the government took it away.
Right
This
over here.
lady spent hundreds of thousands of her own money doing it, and this is what I was gonna say. Every time you try to help, something's being blocked. Now there's one plot of land that's doing that now, but it's only like maybe 40. They have a shared, so they have a plot of land, they have about 40 of these, and then they have like a, a communal bathroom, running water, all of that.
And everything.
There's so much land that's being unused in LA. It doesn't make sense to do this for everyone. Like, we're supposed to be one of the most successful cities. Like, it makes no sense.
yet we're the most unorganized
Thriving,
here,
yeah.
you know.
Andrew, can I ask you, do you feel comfortable sharing some of your own personal journey from experiencing homelessness to here?
I don't know why I wouldn't.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me? It's for me, it's the fact that I had to go through a lot of discomfort and misery, and I mean, I can't even express to you how many times I prayed for the earth to just swallow me whole, you know, to just end it all, because I burned every bridge with every family member. And again, this in my case, my problem was drugs and alcohol, right? But sure enough, later on with the drugs and alcohol, mental health ended up playing a part, which is the same thing for a lot of people here, right? But after almost 12 years of just purely, you know, using drugs and alcohol, like, I ended up on the streets with no family, no friends, a job that I was barely holding on to. They were ready to let me go. And like I mentioned earlier, living inside of a bush because I wanted to stay away from people, because the way you look, all cleaned up, neat clothing, made me feel uncomfortable and made me feel less than, you know? And I would rather just crawl into a hole and just disappear, right? And eventually, you know, like, I had enough. In recovery, we call this the turning point, right?
Was there like a specific thing that happened that like triggered a change for you?
Not really. It was just a pile of every single day misery, right? Not being able to see the future for me, right? Like, I remember as a kid, I used to have all these hopes and dreams of like becoming an Air Force pilot, getting into the space program, and, you know, exploring the world, having a degree and having a house with a white picket fence and, you know, a partner and kids and dog. Like, I had all these dreams. By the time before I came into the Midnight Mission, I couldn't even imagine what's gonna happen in the next 5 minutes, right? Because I knew already at this point that it was gonna be the same thing, right? I'm gonna try to find somebody who has the drugs that I need, or I'm gonna go and steal or do whatever the hell I need to do to be able to get the things that I need. And then I'm gonna be stuck in that trap again, right? Like, it's gonna, like, I'll feel good for 2 seconds and then I'm back to square one, right? And that was just a horrible experience and a horrible way of living for me that I ended up finally realizing, right? And eventually, like, I got tired, you know? In recovery, like, I always talk about this, where like I did that one prayer that, you know, at this point I had no God in my life. I didn't care about anything. I'm not a religious person at all, right? But for some reason I prayed and like things just changed around, right? I started doing things where like I didn't even expect it. And, you know, one of my friends that I used to drink with years prior got me a bed here at the Midnight Mission, and because she knew somebody here. I had no idea Skid Row existed. I had no idea that organizations like this existed. And unfortunately, that's the sad part for a lot of others out there, you know?
Right.
And I came in and started following their, you know, suggestions, their direction of what to do, because clearly they had it going on better than I did, you know? And little by little, like, a lot of the things that the Midnight Mission taught me here is, at first, was seeming like work that I didn't want to do, you know, because at this point I also got lazy and very entitled, despite that I was on the street. But eventually, little by little, things started changing to a point where, like, now today I see that every assignment that they gave me was them showing me how to be a worker among workers, how to show up on time and do a full day of work, right? When they had asked me when they tell me to make my bed and keep my clean area, they showed me how to be consistent, how to be organized, how to live comfortable with everything just in one place, right? Being able to shower. I mean, that's a commodity that I love. I go to the public bathrooms at parks and give myself bird baths. Here I was able to finally just stand there and let some hot water like pour down on me, right? 3 meals a day, like everything that they have done here.
And I'm like, don't scrape the tiles.
Everything that they've done here has its reason and its purpose. Hi, honey. And it's still, I still practice it today, you know? when I graduated the Midnight Missions program in 2017, just that little graduation at first seemed silly to me. I'm like, who graduates from a drug and alcohol program, right? But little did I know is that I was accomplishing something after so many years of not accomplishing anything in life, right? Like the last thing I accomplished anything was high school. You know, every job that I had, I got fired from. Every friend that I had, I ruined it. You know, I went to school for 2 weeks and then tapped out because I didn't want to do it. You know, a lot of the things in my life were just from my own doing. And I had a second chance here, you know. When I meet with others, or when I talk about the Midnight Mission or my experience here, like I always love to say that I'm like the phoenix that rose out of the ashes, right? Skid Row to me is the ashes that a lot of us, you know, you have so many people dying here, hundreds of people dying, and it's, to me, that's not blood spent, you know. To be able to try to help the next person so that that doesn't happen to them. And when I see them walk out of here with keys to their own apartment, like the way I did, when I see them walking out of here not sucked up or tired, like, I love that. I love seeing that. And it just reminds me that that's what I had to do. And now I get to be the experience. When I see guys coming into our program, I get to help them, you know, as best as I can, you know. And that's just, I've come a long way. In 5 years, a lot has changed. You know?
Wow.
There's still some things that I have to work on, but I have a good support here at work and outside in my recovery life. You know, and that's a gift to me.
Absolutely.
I will never trade this life for anything else.
What do you think was the biggest struggle for you to like take these steps to like change your life?
The biggest struggle is not knowing if I was gonna like really put down the drugs. That dependency was definitely strong on me. You know, I did everything with drugs. I would wake up and instantly do a needle with meth. If I had alcohol, first thing going down, right? I couldn't do anything. I couldn't function in life without anything in my system. And that was my biggest fear, not knowing if I was going to be able to put that down. But the second one was actually if I was able to amount to anything else. Because again, I lost all hope in myself, right? So for me to actually think that I was going to leave Skid Row in my own place, that was the biggest part, like where I was kind of like, it's not going to happen. If you could actually see a projection of what my thoughts were then, it's literally just me shooting myself down, not thinking that I was able to. And it took a lot of people here to tell me like I'm worthy, I'm capable of doing it, you know. And that's something that I needed for sure. But that was the biggest struggle. So.
Well, it's amazing to hear your story and
Absolutely.
to see like how far you've come, and it's just exciting to know that there's like, it gives me hope to see such a like transformation. And I love that you can be that person to other people that are experiencing homelessness and have had a similar journey to you, to like give them hope as well and be like, oh, you know what you're talking about. You're not just like a privileged
He's
person
been through
coming
it.
in.
Yeah.
You've been
And that's the one thing, that's why I love doing it even in Culver City, is that I have that opportunity.
Yeah.
You know, where it's just kind of like, I get where you're at. I get what you're doing. I see it, you know?
Yeah.
And that's, if you're tired, here's my card. Like, I love using my business cards as a ticket, right? Like, I'll write, like, for those that I see that are completely out of it, I'll just write on there, like, free for one meal, right? And it's just to entice them to come over here, right? Once they see the line and I see them, or if they call me, I can just say, I can get you into the program, right? It's like my way of doing an outreach thing. But it's also to break the ice so that people know, like, he's cool.
Yeah, there's people here for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, have your back.
Because I know when I was on the streets, it didn't feel that way.
You against the world.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's how most feel.
Do you think when you're on the streets you don't trust people? Like there's a lack of trust?
After a while of being on the streets, yes, you lose that you lose that trust because either you've been done wrong, because that's just unfortunately part of the game. And that's what people that are really trying. Like I've received services from somebody that was trying their best to do the good, but the mistreatment behind it was just something that I wasn't willing to take. Or I'd meet somebody that would promise me something and then it backfire real fast. So all that trust just definitely I was giving it away. I was just like, I don't want it. I don't need it. I can't trust you. Take this one woman. I remember her vividly. She would always come with a pencil skirt, jacket. She's walking to the bus stop, and I remember her just walking by me on the weekdays. That's how I would know it would be a weekday. And she would just smile at me and wish me a good day. And I think that's actually what ended up building me up to wanting help, to be honest. She made me feel human enough.
Yeah.
You know?
Because a lot of people just ignore people on the street, but to feel seen must be a very powerful
she did that, you know, after trying to hide and not be seen because I just couldn't deal with it. Can't believe you made me think.
What's her name? Sheila?
I don't know her name. I never really got a chance to talk to her, just besides me saying thank you. That was it. It was in Downey though.
Oh, Downey. Okay.
Yeah. I was on the streets of Downey. That's where I spend most of my time.
So for people watching or listening, that a lot of people don't understand the full scope of why people are living on the street, or they have that prejudice of like othering, like, oh, they're just homeless people, they need to be like carted off somewhere. Like a lot of people have a negative opinion of homeless people or people experiencing homelessness. How do we start bringing back this? And we were talking about it on the way here, this like shifting so we can just embrace like kindness towards other humans, that it's like bringing back humanity, caring for other people. Is there anything that you would challenge people that are listening that currently maybe haven't been treating people experiencing homelessness with kindness? Like, is there something that people could start doing, you know?
Absolutely.
Maybe it's just smiling and
right.
It's that simple.
Yeah.
It's walking by and acknowledging the person that you see experiencing homelessness, right? Whether it's through a smile or a random word of kindness, right? But also, if you really want to do more, like I'm not saying go and pull out all your money out of the account. What I like to do, because I'm also not well versed with money, but when I do have enough, I will at least try to buy one or two people something to eat, right? I'm the type of person where I wouldn't give money to somebody on the streets because I don't know, and like to me, in my mind, out of my experience, like I don't know if I'm giving them their last step.
Right.
You know?
Exactly.
Their next hit that's gonna kill them, and I'm against that. Yeah. You want food and water, I will give you that. You need socks, I'll get you that. You need shoes, I'll get you that. You need a place to sleep, here's my card. Come on over. You know. But if you really want to do something out in your neighborhood, it starts off from there, right? Get familiarized where all the resources are, so that in case somebody does want help, you know where to go. You know where to take them, or at least direct them to, right?
And then I guess the next step is like even volunteering at a place like this.
Coming out to the Midnight Mission or to any of the facilities here and just helping out, you know?
Yeah.
Pretty soon, once the pandemic is over, we're gonna open up back up again, and we're gonna have volunteers helping us serve a meal to all our homeless brothers and sisters here, you know? I have volunteers right now coming once or twice a week to help sort clothing, well-needed clothes for them, you know, so that they're not walking around with holes on their shoes. So organizations like the Midnight Mission can always use help. But if you really want to start somewhere small and simple, it's right in your front door.
Right.
It's right there. All you have to do is just take action. I love that.
Where can people find out more about the Midnight Mission?
So if you guys want to find out more about the Midnight Mission, just go to www.midnightmission.org, or you can also send me an email at alinares@midnightmission.org, or you can even call us at 213-624-9258.
And are you privately funded or government funded? Like, how can people donate towards like the work here?
You can definitely donate to the Midnight Mission. We do take government funding, but we don't rely on government funding. All our donors are private donors and individuals in the county, and we're very proud of that. We're very proud of that we don't have to depend on the government telling us what we can and cannot do.
Right.
We run the rules. We've been doing this for a while. We're gonna do it the way that we see fit. So totally went out on that one. But you can definitely donate through our website or through check.
Did he not say everything I said in the
No.
car?
Yeah.
I mean, but in the way of someone that's working here, I just encourage everybody to like do what you can. Like if you can volunteer or tell somebody else or use your platform to share it, do that, please. There's organizations like Midnight Mission that really need help. And I always say that, you know, if you can't do it, just like, even if it's buying 2 water bottles when you go into the gas station and giving it to somebody else, even that is helpful. Do what you can, even if it's something that small. It does make a big difference to somebody. So that's all I have to say.
Yeah, thank you so much, man. Thanks so much for showing us around, and
Thank you.
I loved hearing your story.
I want to hug you. Thank you for sharing your story.
Absolutely.
Thank you for being here to help.
So you can talk in. Oh wow, look.
Yeah, this is what's going up.
But look over
It's
here.
one of the new buildings.
There's a Palestinian.
Oh yeah. All the protests are always downtown because we have City Hall, Hall of Justice, LAPD headquarters. Yeah.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah, if you understand, if you go into the history and understand how the war between them even started, it's crazy. It starts from before Christ, like Bible,
it goes
biblical
so,
days.
Yeah, it goes
so
far
back. And so yeah, I want to voice on it, but I wanted with certain subjects I wait, and I want to make sure that I know all the information before I speak out, because in the past, I've said some things that ended up information coming out and it changing. So now I'm like a little bit like, I wait for the information and then
Yeah, I've got to be honest, the whole Israel-Palestine thing, like, I've got a perspective that I feel like I've formed fairly from seeing a bunch of different information. Mm-hmm. But I do feel afraid to voice it because I'm like, I know there's going to be backlash.
Yeah.
And I don't know why. I think there shouldn't be. I don't feel like there should ever be a hesitation in like speaking against injustice. But for me, it's almost like, is my voice needed? Maybe it is, but I also feel like I don't want to insert myself into a situation that I don't know a lot about.
Right.
And I think I've kind of educated myself enough about it, but yeah, it's a tough one.
It's tough, but I think you do a really good job at, if you do have questions with certain subjects, like you go to people and make sure that you're like, hey, if I speak up like this or if I talk about this, like you and I had so many conversations with the George Floyd and what happened in the protests after that, because you're like, I just want to make sure I'm doing it right. I'm like, you even caring and using your platform to speak about it, and that was huge. You know what I mean? Because it's been us the whole time. Like, you know, like I was talking about police brutality on YouTube for years and they took down my videos. Not even just demonetized them, took them off the platform.
Wow.
And one of them, I was literally holding my little brother. So I have, you know, I have, like, I'm by, like, my sister and I are by our parents, right? So we're biracial, but I have a little brother that is just black. And I literally, so when I think about him and like my nephew, I fight, when I think about police brutality, the fact that they have to wear, I have to think about them. So in one video I was literally, and this is right after Trayvon Martin, I was literally holding my little brother crying on the screen. They took that down. And so that was part of the reason why I was demonetized too, is because I've been talking about it for years before it became this movement that it became last year. And it's so random that was one of the reasons why I had to fight for my voice, is because I decided not to shut up when they asked me to shut up, and so I can be advertiser friendly. And but now it's come back around to where now those same platforms or the same organizations are asking for my voice now, because they know I've been talking about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
And that's the other reason why I feel feel like things are moving because people are waking up to it. It's not happening as quick as I would like. If I was a billionaire, oh my gosh, the things I would accomplish right now, I would shut down a lot of these policies that say I can't have this land or have this building to help people. You could shut that down if you have money for lawyers to fight against it, or lobbyists.
It's interesting on the way here when we were just saying, like, how do you make people care?
Right.
And I realized today, like, I think a lot of it is, we can talk a lot about the world's problems in theory, but when you actually hear a personal story, it's so deeply impactful. Like Andrew sharing his kind of like the struggles he's been through was so powerful for me to hear. And I'm like, wow, if we can use our platforms to share the, you know, people's struggles and their stories, and or help give them more of a platform, like maybe that's one of the solutions, is like people actually being at least willing to listen and hear people's experiences, you know. And then it's like, okay, yeah. And I guess that's what a lot of the kind of Black Lives Matter movement last year, even though it's been something you've been a part of fighting for years, it was almost like last year finally people were listening. And because of the media and like, it felt like it was almost like a tinderbox ready to like ignite, and then suddenly like people that hadn't really understood the issues, or you know, so many white people were waking up to like, oh wow, this isn't just like another news story I've been hearing about, another thing that's unrelated to them. It's like suddenly taking ownership of like, oh, I'm a part of this, you know.
Yeah.
And the same way like other injustices, like, you know, really just walking down Skid Row and being like, whoa, like I live in such a bubble, and I don't feel a guilt around it. It's not like I'm like, oh, I feel bad because I live in a nice level of comfort and I have freedom and I have that security of, but I do feel like it feels incredibly unfair, and it feels like, and it does make me feel like isn't just, I don't deserve the life I have. Like, I don't deserve this privilege. There's nothing about me that makes, like he said as well, it's like making that first step of realizing there's actually nothing different, but other than our circumstance, you know? Right. And I wonder, it's
just a lot to undo, because this country was literally built on that ignorance, that selfishness, that privilege for some, you know, and then everyone else has had to literally wake up and figure out how to survive, and go around living that way without that privilege or without that handout, or so it's so much to undo. But unless we can literally acknowledge exactly what I was saying earlier, that white privilege exists and systematic racism exists, until we are at that point where we can really say that, then or acknowledge that, and I don't know how we'll start change or start changing things.
I actually was watching a video the other day, and it was a white guy complaining about he was kind of mocking the concept of defund the police, and it felt really ignorant because he was just giving all those typical arguments. And honestly, when I first heard defund the police, I was like, is that the solution? Right. The more I've heard about it and explained about redistributing funds, right, the exorbitant amount of money that going to militarizing the police, all of these things, I felt angry hearing his ignorance. Right. And I was like, why am I so angry? And I felt like I just wanted to mute him on rather than engage. I was just like he doesn't know what he's talking about, and I want to mute him. And I was just annoyed that he's pushing this, messaging out. And it did feel very much like this kind of fragility of defensiveness against, I don't know why he was defending the police, but it was I just felt like, oh bro, just listen to people. Mm-hmm. If he actually listened to people that have been affected, rather than from his white privileged position being like, oh, defunding the police stupid, obviously we need police to protect us. I was like, I don't know. I think with all the education and stuff, and like the stuff I've been learning about over the last year, it just made me realise I need to have more understanding and patience, because I'm almost feeling angry and offended for the people that are being oppressed.
Yeah.
And I'm
No,
like not
I
even
feel
the one.
you.
I'm not even the one directly suffering. Like I have no.
Because it's really frustrating, and it's almost like a joke when you hear what you just heard, where people are so far from understanding, and it's because of that comfort that they were able to live in, and
then
it's
using
a privilege to not
using their platforms in the wrong way
Yeah.
to perpetuate this idea that there's one or two. It's just the bad apples in the police force. There's nothing systemically wrong with it.
Right.
Which is where I just feel like it's...
I mean, it is. Okay, the history of policing and where it came from, of being slavery patrol, is still instilled. And people do need to realize that slavery has been abolished shorter than slavery existed.
Yeah.
And so that's why the problem still exists today, because they never did things like, and put in resources and created things to make it easier for people after slavery. We literally have been fighting forever just to have some type of equality, and so that's where like frustration and all of that comes into play. And so it's just a lot of history to undo. So if people understood where policing started, and understand that there are not only bad apples in policing and in their organizations or whatever, but then there are a lot of people that are silent about those bad apples. So all it does is become this trickle down and this behavior. Like they have this I'm above the law swag. They have this I am the law, like you need to listen to me, boy. Like that's how they talk to people. They're disrespectful instead of understanding that they are there to help our community. They are there to make all of us safe. All of us safe. You don't get to look at someone because of their color of skin and decide that, oh, he looks just like the person that was, wrong for a crime last week, and decide that that's exactly who it is. It's just their approach has changed, their behavior has changed. The culture of policing is not what it's supposed to be. And so that needs to be completely undone, because if you look at the lady Kim that just shot the kid, why can't I think of his name right now?
Oh, I know what you're talking about, right? She was the police officer who killed the kid recently.
Hold on, I have his name. Let me just...
He was the Latino kid?
Yeah, I posted her and him.
It's sad that there's so many people that we
I know.
There's so many names to remember now.
This is what I was talking about in this video. Kim Potter. So that's what, so if you allow this behavior to keep happening, so Kim Potter, that just, shot the kid in the same area as George Floyd.
Do we know the kid's name? Dante Wright?
Yeah, Dante Wright. Oh my God. I just said it too. But Kim Potter, the officer that killed Dante Wright, and Derek Chauvin, the officer that was kneeling on George Floyd and killing him, were both training officers. These are officers that were in policing for 25 plus years that made these mistakes, murdering people. And so that's how I think about policing as well, as like there's people that are bad apples that are in it forever and then become the officers that train others with that same mindset. You get what I'm saying? And so it just comes this trickle down where the culture is not, it doesn't help the communities that they're supposed to be showing up for. They're not benefiting the communities that they're showing up for. They're not benefiting by stalking people and trying to get them in trouble instead of, I don't know, they're trying to create crime instead of reacting to crime, which is what they're supposed to do. They're not. And
I do think we're generalizing here in our language, which I actually think is okay, because, and if anyone's listening or watching feeling triggered, maybe you're a law enforcement officer or you've got family in that. I don't think I don't think this is a personal attack on individuals, but it's saying the system, in the same way that I actually think the whole political system and society needs dismantling, and in so many ways, I think we could talk forever on it. I do think the policing system has to be dismantled. It's like there's been years of like reformation and like, oh, let's just change things. It's like, no, I honestly think this needs to be ripped down. I don't know what the truly believing in abolishing the police force looks like, but I do believe it needs to be ripped down and rebuilt from scratch.
Absolutely.
Because whether you are in it, and maybe you're in it for good motives and you want to protect and you want to serve, but then for me, the culture is so toxic. This macho power trip thing isn't just one-offs. I see it all over. That's been my experience of seeing police all across America is very different from police officers I experienced in the UK and Europe. Well, I'm not even saying the UK police are good, but I'm just saying, you know, there's something rotten to the core of the system. And I do think there's scenarios where police will be needed, but I think a lot of the jobs that they're paid to do, they're not trained properly. There needs to be trained people without weapons going to
mental health crisis
situations.
Yeah.
People that are in need, that are already being oppressed and suffering because of the system that oppresses them. And then it's like the police show up and they're the ones that are being targeted and blamed and executed often, you know. So I don't know, I feel like we've kind of opened a whole can of worms with this conversation. I want to pull it back to not just the police, not just the oppression of black people, but the culture that we live in. And I wonder, and again I have no answers, but I wonder whether a big part of the America and the dating back to like the British Empire and my heritage and everything, it's like it was building a world, which is what you said, of where the few wealthy white people win, and it's always at the expense of a vast amount of people and oppressed groups losing, whether it's through slavery, whether it's through poverty right now as well, where like so many people are living below the poverty line.
Right.
And
Billionaires are getting
it's not an
richer.
accident. It's not an accident. It's the system that we have created, and we have to rethink. We, you know, this whole thing of people not caring and kindness. Like, I feel like unfortunately the capitalist system, and I'm like feel bad because I'm like I play into the system. I am a part of it, but it's like it's so rooted in greed and individualism that it's like we aren't brought up truly believing that we belong as this broader like global family. Like we believe in this more of an individualistic
survival
mindset.
Yeah.
And I read a thing, it's like an indigenous quote that said like individualism is like the delusion of the West. Like it's a delusion that we aren't connected to one another, we aren't connected to the planet intrinsically, you know. And that's where we can abuse other people, we can abuse and destroy the planet we live in because we feel like we aren't connected intrinsically. We feel like, oh, we're just ourselves, right? But that's just not the reality of it. And how do we dismantle capitalism or reimagine capitalism with more compassion? I don't know what that looks like. But have you thought a lot about this? Like how would you redesign, like what would your perfect, if you were president or had the power of the people, you know, and that high up, how would you imagine restructuring America?
Oh my gosh, if you're one of my friends that, you know, smoke the blunt with me or get tipsy with me at nighttime, you hear this all the time.
Maybe we should sit down and just chat for hours.
No, this is the thing, like, and they think that I'm gonna be president one day, but honestly, it takes a lot of redistributing funds. First of all, why are corporations and billionaires getting richer and everyone else getting poorer? It's killing our economics, like our economy in general, right? If we, like, the reason why I loved Bernie is he was one of the first people running that said our middle class is our country, right? Because what it is putting money and resources where that's needed. He's saying that is the focus so that we eliminate how many poor people there are, and we're not just giving more and more money to rich people. So it's more redistributing the focus on what is the core of America. That's number one. Number two is we have to stop. We have to have equality. We have to fund schools. We cannot have schools funded by the property tax. That's racism right there. That's saying this poor area, y'all aren't gonna get that much funding.
That links
you're
in with,
underfunded,
like,
you're
redlining
understaffed.
and stuff, right?
Oh my God, exactly. They keep poor people exactly where they want to keep them by not allowing them to have the proper resources like education. That right there is the sickest thing I've ever seen. Like,
doesn't make any sense.
And then we're getting taught the wrong history. We're getting taught, and we're not getting taught things that will actually help. Like, especially if you're going to have an urban area that's underfunded, teach taxes and credit so that kids know how to become, like adults in the right way. And
teach
obviously,
like proper like health education and nutrition. It's like, this is a whole nother thing. The
doctors don't even get.
Farmers. I was talking to a nurse and she would ate so badly and she'd never been taught about nutrition. I was like,
they have one health class in freshman year.
So much of the health issues in America are caused by terrible diet and terrible lack of knowledge about nutrition. And it's like the pharmaceutical companies, and I'm sure there's some pharmaceuticals that are important, and I get it, like the healthcare system, there's good parts of it, but I feel like, again, it's one of those systems that needs to be dismantled because it's all profiting off not resolving the root causes of health issues. It's just like putting band-aids and stuff, right?
Yeah,
and like charging people money.
Exactly, and then you give someone a medication for a symptom, and then they have symptoms from that medication, you give them another one. Yeah. And they're caught up in this system because the pharmaceutical company runs this country. They really do, and so that's one of the things that I would dismantle, and of course reshape policing and make it make sense.
This is where capitalism fails for me, because where you've got industries that are meant to change people's lives for the better and save lives and prevent illness, and then you're tying that in with profit and greed at any cost, and often the cost of people's lives and livelihoods and health. It just seems evil to me.
Evil. It is evil.
That anyone's profiting off charging. That's the whole scandal about how much
medical. That's the
how much insulin costs in the US compared to like
people are literally dying because they can't get their insulin. That's two of the things that I would change if I was president or whatever. Right? Is that the medical and jail system and education system should not be a profitable. No. That should be not. We should not be doing that for financial gain. That's normal. And the other thing, water. We should have fresh water. We should have spouts that like London. Is it London or UK? Yeah. They just have water spouts everywhere around the city. People carry these bottles everywhere and can fill up at all times and know that they can at least have that. The fact that we can't even do that, there's a lot of people that don't even have access to running water at all. We're not a fifth world country. It's crazy. So even just people having access to that, I mean, I would change that too.
I sometimes, everything we're talking about I agree with, and I sometimes get criticism from people when I get off on these rants that I'm like being ungrateful. If I don't like America, why don't you go back to where you came from? And it's like,
it's not about that.
No, I see the beauty of America. I see what people are striving for, and I think there's something amazing about the US. But I also think it's fine to be critical in order to make something better. Like, if you believe, it's not like we're just bitching about something for the sake of it. It's like, no, we see the failings and we see the effect that has on people. And it's like, let's fight for this. Let's say, no, this isn't okay. Like, whether it's the US, the UK, any part of the world, I'm not coming in as someone from the UK and just like targeting the US, but I feel like as well, what happens in the US massively impacts the rest of the world. It's such a trendsetter. It's such a cultural mecca that like ripples out. So it's like, as I've lived here the last 2.5 years and been around a lot of like the previous presidency, it's like it has made me frustrated because I'm like, this is affecting the entire world. It isn't just the US, and even in LA, it's like what happens in LA ripples out because it's like the media center of the world, and it's like I feel like it's frustrating but also incredibly exciting that we're here and that we can try and do something, try and gather people that have influence, try and it's
not about not being grateful. It's like, because I'm grateful a couple times a day I sit in my small meditation and say things I'm appreciative and grateful for. But then at the same time, the things that I'm grateful for, someone else doesn't have that luxury. And that's what my mind goes to. So it's not being grateful. It's like, hey, wait. And not everybody can experience even just this moment of having a meditation, because they're in survival mode every minute. That right there it pops into my mind no matter what. So yes, like if anything, I'm grateful that I can even just have a platform, have a voice to even bring these things to light, because it's necessary. So I don't even pay attention when people say that, because then that means they're so out of touch with how much work we have to do.
Yeah.
Period. And that's what I was saying. I can't spend my time trying to reach those people. I can't, because then it's going to stop me from the end goal. And that's honestly what a lot of people want, is like to halt you from, your journey and like actually doing things to impact and change things. So I can't. And sometimes I do stop and I will have conversations with people, but at the same time, you got to remember, like, you got to keep rolling. You got to keep moving forward and try to be lights for the people, or try to be a direction for people that are awake or care about making change. You know what I mean? So the more time we spend on those people and trying to convince them, the more time we're not spending on the end goal here,
Yeah. And I feel like for me, I don't know if you've got any advice for me, but I have found myself less able to have calm conversations with people that have super ignorant views or miseducated. I feel like I get pretty riled up easily, and it's unlike me because I'm normally just pretty mellow, but I'm like annoyed because I'm like, I don't want to suddenly feel aggressive about stuff, because I want to feel like I can bridge that divide and calmly help people understand maybe that, like, their perspective is narrow or whatever. But I end up just getting really frustrated. Like, I was chatting to one of my friends and she was saying how wearing masks was this big conspiracy where, like, Saudi Arabia was trying to turn us all Muslim. And I was like, I just got so angry because I was like, this kind of stuff you're talking about is what causes Islamophobia, Asian hate stuff.
Exactly.
It's like when you come up with these when you perpetuate these wild conspiracy theories, a lot of which were from the right wing, QAnon, all stuff. But it's like, for me, like, I don't feel like I can calmly just be like, let's figure out, does this sound logical to you? Does this really, but
it's hard.
It just comes across as like, I'm immediately angered.
Yeah, no, I get that way too. And I try to draw myself back. And when I do have these conversations with people, first of all, I have to take a moment, I have to breathe. Yeah. I am honest about the fact that, hey, I just felt triggered by that. Let me take a minute. I'm going to take a walk or whatever. Yeah. And how I try to start very hard conversations with people that I know is ignorant and like off, like just completely on different pages than me, is I start out by talking about things that actually connect us and put us on the same page. Nice. Whether it's like our family members or our niece or nephew that we love and care about or whatever, the things that connect us, finding common ground, and then starting from there, because if ever we get off track or whatever, it's almost like I know that I'm different from them and I almost have to humanize myself, right? If people don't like me because of my a lot of times I get attacked for my sexuality, especially from religious people online. And so I spend time kind of poking fun at them because they're the number one consumers of my content. It's like, you're so homophobic, but you're watching me more than my audience watches me. What does that say, right? But anyway, so I kind of see all people that battle with me like that.
Do you think some of that is like closeted people that haven't?
Oh, absolutely.
Haven't come out yet?
Like 99%. And that's how I feel. I feel like religious people attack me because they may have some questions about their sexuality.
They're like
and they
projecting.
They can't express themselves, and so they get mad at those of us that can and can live the life where we feel comfortable. But then on the other side, they created this. They demonize us because they're like, oh wait, they're putting this in my mind, and this is another reason why I don't like these people or whatever. And so yeah, there's a lot of that. But people that attacked me, I see. I'm kind of getting off where I was trying to go, but I kind of see that they're just like, I don't know, they just don't have that full picture, and so I don't like to spend time with them. But if I do have those conversations, I try to draw them back to that moment where we had shared commonality or whatever, like, our family or whatever, so they can remember that. So there's been often times where I'm like, so I love my niece and nephews, so you love your niece, so if your niece came out of the closet and someone treated her like that, what would you do? How would you think? So it's almost like creating that commonality so that you can use that so that they can understand, because a lot of times you have to put these ignorant people in the same position, that you have to put them in. I have to put them in my shoes or someone else's shoes in order for them to understand. And so I like doing that. And that's what helps me in conversations with people that I know it's going to be really tough, or I'm going to be mad.
Yeah.
Because I get mad.
Well, I feel like we could chat for hours and hours more, but we're almost back. So I'd love to maybe just wrap up by, like, what would your message to people that have been listening, watching, like, what do you think your message is to people? Like your, I don't know, like something that people could learn, something you've learned that you want to pass on, some kind of knowledge. Like, is there a closing kind of thought you have?
It's tough. I just want to encourage others to do their part, even if it's, like I was saying earlier, buying one water bottle for someone or starting a full-on organization or whatever. I just want to, encourage people to do that, because we need that more than ever. We need voices more than ever, and we need people to care. And even if you're doing your part is just being the best person that you can be and sharing that with others, and hoping that you literally inspire others to be on their self-growth journey and be the best that they can be. And the more that we do that, the better we can be to each other. So that's what I would want to say. And
Yeah,
it's
so
a lot.
true. I think it all starts with looking at yourself and figuring out your own shit first, and then I think then it comes what you're saying before about, like, you got to a point sometimes when you're just empty, you haven't got anything else to give, and it's like at that point you need to put yourself first. You need to, like, find your own strength and place of, like, energy so you can give to others.
Recharge, rejuvenate. It's so necessary.
Yeah.
Especially to those that are, like, constantly giving to others.
Wow. Well, thanks so much for...
But look, see, all this, and then up down to the freeway is what he was talking about.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
All these vans.
There's one right here, they've been.
Park here. Oh, yeah. Cool. Well, thanks for your time today. And
Of course.
I just love what you're doing, and any way that I can support you more. And where can people find you? Your stuff?
You guys can find me AmbersCloset on my social media, on YouTube, and I'm also on Facebook and Instagram a lot, so check me out, y'all.
Sweet. I'll link her below, and thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
This is amazing. Man, I can't wait. I need to borrow this truck. I'm gonna party in this thing.
Oh yeah, let me show you my sound system.
Thanks for joining us. Be sure to follow Amber and Midnight Mission and subscribe to this podcast for future episodes. Please leave a comment suggesting future guests you'd like to see on the show.